Hi, welcome back. I am Alice Chen, and today I'm going to be talking about the Hardy Weinberg Equilibrium Principle, and this will be a continuation of the video that I did before explaining what exactly that is. So if you want to make sure you know, click down in the description box below and I'll have a link there. This, however, is a sample problem question, so I'm going to be explaining exactly how to use the information that we talked about the Hardy Weinberg equilibrium problem. All right, so this is our question. In aliens, skin color is genetically inherited. Orange skin is the homozygous recessive, or a phenotype. The average frequency of orange skin versus green skin among aliens is only 1 in 20,000. So the question, what is the frequency of carriers of the orange skin allele? All right, so when we're talking about the frequency of alleles, you can know right away that we're talking about the Hardy Weinberg Equilibrium Principle. If you will recall, Hardy Weinberg is all about allele frequency. And so anytime you have a question that asks about it, you know right away that this is what you're going to be using. All right, so just to remind ourselves, these are the two equations that we have from last time. So p squared plus 2pq plus q squared equals 1, and then p plus q equals 1. And if you'll remember, p and q are the frequencies of the different alleles. So p would be your dominant allele, in other words, big A, and then q is your recessive allele, in other words, little a. So, since orange skin is recessive, we know p squared. So p squared is the frequency of individuals who are homozygous recessive, right? Because they have two little a alleles in order for them to become, to have orange skin as their phenotype. And so we can then calculate what q squared is and what q is. So here we have the information that we wrote down. So the q squared is 1 in 20,000, in other words, a bunch of zeros and a 5 at the end. And if we take the square root of that, we can figure out what q is. So q is 0.007. So that's the frequency of the recessive allele. And then because we have that, we can figure out from this equation here that since p plus q equals 1, and we know q, then we can figure out that p is 0.993. All right, so to carry that over into the frequency of the actual carriers themselves, these are the two equations or the two frequencies that we discovered at the last slide. And just to make sure that we know what we're looking for, carriers are heterozygotes, right? So they are people who have the recessive allele, or the recessive allele, but they don't demonstrate it, right? So these would be the aliens who have green skin, but they still have the allele for orange skin. So they're carriers or heterozygotes. And so we're looking for 2pq, in other words. All right, so now that we know the value of p and of q, we can figure out the frequency of these carriers. So 2pq, and then we plug in the values for p and the values for q, and we get the total of 0.014, or 1.4%. So 1.4% of all aliens would be carriers for the orange skin allele. And then from that, just in case the question has another part to it or we're just curious, we can also see the frequency of heterozygous dominance. So people, the aliens who do not have any recessive alleles, and that would be p squared or 0.986. So that's it. It's pretty simple. As long as you remember the two key equations of the Hardy Weinberg principle, you should be able to figure out the vast majority of questions that have to do with the frequency of alleles or the frequency of different phenotypes. If you have further questions, I would love to hear them down in the comment box below. If not, definitely check out some of the other videos I have over there. And then if you'd like to subscribe, I've included a link down there. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.